Oh, good. You got into the right one. Perfect. All right, we're good now. Okay. They're just preparing the feed. Okay.
Can you?
Yeah, I think we're live right now. Ooh, awesome. My friend just texted me that we are live. Let me just make sure that everything looks good. Hi, everybody.
I'm gonna do a little hi.
Perfect. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but I think we're ready to go now. I'm wearing my Wonder Woman costume because we're celebrating the launch of my podcast, Supercharged Life, and it's all about being the superhero in your own lives, and that's why we are here. So Maria is my little sister, as some of you already know, and she is the first episode and the first guest ever of my podcast. So I'm very, very excited that she is here right now. Maria, tell everybody a little bit about yourself in case they don't know about you.
Well, in case you don't know who I am, have you guys not been following any of my sister's posts? I'm just kidding. Why aren't you talking more about me, Judy? No, so I am Judy's younger sister. I'm a professional poker player. I am a broadcaster for poker and esports. And, you know, I, at one point in my life, actually considered studying psychology as well, but then I kind of found it in poker on a totally separate journey and path than my sister, but that kind of intersected in its own way. So,
well, so exciting because basically I think Maria practices street psychology, and we talk about a lot of that in the first episode, and she uses psychology every day, maybe even more than I do. So right now I am so excited because this has been really a dream come true for me to have a podcast, especially one that gives people scientific tips and ways to supercharge your life. And it's just really important for me that we are providing people with tips, with things that are helpful, just with things in general that can really help to supercharge their lives in different areas. And we're going to be delving into all kinds of stuff, from relationships to career to motivation and productivity, and also more serious topics like depression, anxiety, and trauma. And we have some amazing guests lined up for you. But of course, the most special guest is my sister, our very first guest. So Maria, what can people look forward to in this podcast based on your experience coming in for an interview before we started social distancing? So we actually got to be together in person for the first recording.
Well, honestly, guys, I would say it's less about me and a little bit more about Judy. So if you guys are looking for some dish on the doctor, then you guys probably want to tune in because, you know, obviously I've known Judy my whole life because, we've never really left in terms of like growing up in the same household. I did go to boarding school for a short while, but other than that, Judy and I have been like inseparable in the sense of like living under one roof. So I have a lot of dirt that I definitely shared on this podcast. And of course, we talked a little bit about poker and about the psychology of poker, but mostly it's just about all the things that you want to know about Dr. Judy.
Well, I think that's definitely the case for the first episode because you shared so many embarrassing stories about me. So before we get to the first supercharged tip of the day, tell people, just tell people one embarrassing story, because obviously they can hear a lot more on the podcast, but tell people one embarrassing story. I'm cool with it. You can tell whichever one you want. Doesn't have to be one. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be one that was on the actual podcast episode. Maybe it could be a new one that's never been told in public.
I mean, I wouldn't even say that this was like that. Okay, like this wasn't embarrassing, but this is just something that I will never forget. So Judy had a boyfriend come over. I think I was maybe like 10, so she was like 14, 15 or whatever. And my parents weren't home, and like Judy doesn't ever do anything bad, right? Like she is such a goody two shoes that no matter what my parents say, she'll follow to a T. But in this particular instance, I don't know, she just decided to be a rebel and allow her boyfriend to come over when my parents weren't home. And I knew he was there, and being an obnoxious younger sister, all I want to do is get my sister in trouble. So I remember that I had this Hello Kitty camera, and I came down the stairs with it, and I like attempted to like take a photo of Judy, you know, in the act of having her boyfriend over when he wasn't supposed to. And he had hid in the closet. And I remember like he was way bigger, taller than me, but I don't care. I like opened the closet door, dragged him out of the closet, took a photo, and he took my camera and broke it. So I was never able to really share that evidence with my parents. I still told on her, but I just didn't have the proof to back it up. So I think that was like a little embarrassing for both of us, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, we have lots of stories like that, but first let's get to a good supercharge tip for the day. Okay, so one of my favorite things is to talk about morning routines because I think it's so important to have a good morning routine. And I have some tips about what I do in my morning routine. I've told people before that my morning routine can be up to 3 hours, which is very surprising to people. But the way that I do that is I get up so early. I get up around 4:30 to 5 a.m. every single day. But obviously some days I have a really early start and I don't have that luxury to work out for an hour and spend 20 minutes outdoors and do a stretch and everything else. But Maria, what are some of the things that you like to do in terms of your morning routine?
It depends on how much time I have in the morning because I really value my sleep. I really do feel like I function way better with more sleep. So yeah, I mean, if I have just like a moderate amount of time, I always like to wake up, meditate, try to do a little bit of yoga, even if it's like a quick 10 to 15 minute practice. I used to have a routine of drinking coffee every morning, you know, even if it doesn't really work for me anymore, the caffeine and it's more placebo effect. I think like you were just saying, just the act of having a routine is just really helpful for me to feel centered and ready to start my day. But nowadays I'm kind of replacing my coffee with some alternatives. Sometimes I'll have, you know, a ginger shot, or sometimes I'll have a green juice, but I kind of like to at least be able to sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and sip on something and have that time to myself, because that kind of feels like a relaxing way before I get into like the hectic, chaotic busyness of it all. But
I can't believe that you don't really drink coffee every day anymore. How often would you say you drink coffee or don't drink coffee at this point?
I think I drink coffee like 2 to 3 days a week. Like I don't need it. I actually don't feel like I need it. I never felt that way, but I definitely enjoy the taste of it. And yes, even if it's in my mind, sometimes I'm like, oh, I really need caffeine. So yeah, not every day, usually like every other day.
Okay, well, I just shared a couple of posts to the Bookstr site. It's also on the event page, but basically a couple of tips for you to supercharge your morning and also supercharge your coffee. Now, I know everybody that has not gotten on this bandwagon, but I have tried to add grass-fed butter into coffee, and it's honestly the most delicious thing, even though it sounds weird, because it makes sense. I mean, if you like half and half, you wouldn't not like butter. It's just even more rich. I also add sea salt to my coffee sometimes, as well as some cinnamon, cocoa, or even cardamom. So definitely check those out. But let's play a little game, Maria. We did some Would You Rather during the episode, and I do this also in some of my other episodes as well with other guests. But okay, so I played a different version of this with you on our episode, but today I'm just going to ask you this or that. Would you rather read minds or see the future?
I feel like I would rather, oh, that's so tough. It's kind of like, I feel like see the future is really valuable right now. But I would love to read people's minds because I'm a very inquisitive person. That's actually really tough. I'm just gonna go with see the future.
Okay, see the future. I like that one too. Okay, what about have super hearing or have X-ray vision?
Well, I feel like super hearing, because if I can't read people's minds, then like super hearing is almost, you know, just like one notch below that, where like people think they're whispering and they think you can't hear them, but you can still hear them. So I'd rather have that for sure.
Okay, that's good. What about being able to fly versus running at super speed?
Well, I'm kind of afraid of heights, so I'll just stick with the running and have my feet on the ground.
I would love to fly. Obviously, I'm wearing my superhero costume. Okay, only eat dessert or only eat savory foods?
That's so easy. Only eat savory foods because I don't even have a sweet tooth. I would rather have like French fries or pizza any day over like chocolate.
Awesome. That's cool. What about speaking many languages or able to speak with animals?
I'm going to go with speaking many languages. I love animals, but it's just more practical, I think, to communicate with anybody from any part of the world.
Yeah, I think so too. But especially because you travel so much. Okay, last one. Always be winter or always be summer?
Always be summer. I hate the cold.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm the same. That's probably why we generally live in Los Angeles. Okay, so it's time for our first prize. I'm going to be doing a series of giveaways today, and I have a big announcement at the end. So the first one is for a $10 Amazon gift card, because who doesn't love Amazon right now? In fact, I am sending Clorox wipes to you, right, Maria? That is something that's on the way.
Yeah, you guys, I was not as prepared as my sister, but that's not a surprise. So I definitely do not have Clorox, and no stores around me have it. So
don't worry, I put it in UPS and hopefully it'll get to you in the next couple of days. But do you need toilet paper too? Do you need me to go back to
you know what? I have a funny story about that. So again, I wasn't as prepared, but I also just want to say I'm not a hoarder, because clearly I just didn't have like all of this extra stuff laying around. I actually had to practically beg several of my different friend groups for toilet paper. And I actually tweeted this the other day, like, you know who your real friends are when you send out a message asking for toilet paper and you get ghosted. Like, half of the people I sent the message to never responded to me. And then the other half, those are my true friends. So thank you guys for the ones who gave me toilet paper. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, wow. That's a really funny way to think about who your real friends are right now.
It was, and it wasn't even a test. It was like a legitimate crisis that I needed toilet paper. And I got ignored by like half of the people I sent the text to. And some of the people that gave it to me, I'm not even that close to. Like, I was really, really shameless about who I messaged. I'm like, hey, haven't talked to you in a couple months. Do you have toilet paper?
I love that you did that though, because you know what, like you said, it's all about really making sure who your friends are. It's a great way to actually know exactly who is really on your side when things hit the fan, right?
For sure.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we're going to do our first contest, and I feel like this should be a trivia question about you. I have a $10 Amazon gift certificate to give away. So if you think you have the answer, go ahead and comment at us. And if you get the right answer, then I will email you a $10 gift certificate so you can buy toilet paper and Clorox when it comes back online. All right, so what's a good trivia question for you, Maria? Like, what's something that people don't really know about you, but wouldn't be so hard to take a stab at?
I don't know. Like, maybe we'll go with what maybe just like my favorite color, because there's not like that many guesses, but I don't know. Or I don't know. Or my like favorite, or my favorite burger place. I don't know. One of those things.
Okay. So you choose one and then we'll ask everybody.
Let's just ask what my favorite color is.
Okay. What do you guys think Maria's favorite color is?
Do you even know the answer to that?
I thought I did, but did it change?
No, it's been the same since I was young. So you either know it or you don't.
Okay, then I definitely know it. Okay. So we'll see what people comment. But if you can guess Maria's favorite color, then you will receive a $10 Amazon gift certificate. So go ahead and guess. You could just throw it out there because there's so many colors, and obviously there's ways in which you can, oh, wow. Ronnie, you said purple? I think that's the right answer. Is that right, Maria?
That is the right answer.
Yay! I'm just right here to Ronnie. So Ronnie, I'm just gonna write it down. I'm so old school. I don't even really know how to use Facebook Live. So I'm gonna have to write down and then come back to you later. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose this part of the feed. So good job, Ronnie. That was amazing. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some other tips that people might find helpful. So again, right now we're in this really weird, unprecedented season. We're doing social isolation, basically, social distancing. How are you doing with all of that, Maria? Because I think it really does play a role in terms of how we respond to it, especially with our personality type. So what do you think?
So it's, I think I've been doing okay in the sense of like, I am a social person, but I don't need to, have this crazy social calendar where I'm like, scheduling weeks ahead of time to be at a certain place to meet up with certain people. Because I do enjoy just kind of relaxing and being lazy. But so I've been okay on that front. But I think it's more just like losing the sense of freedom of being like, okay, if today I woke up and I wanted to go somewhere, I can't do that. But it's not so much like this idea of like, oh, I have no ability to like socialize with my friends, and that's really making me really anxious or whatever. And honestly, the bulk of the struggle for me just from everything that's happening right now is more just like some of the anxiety that I've been getting from feeling like everything's dirty. Like I'm a little bit of a germaphobe as it is. So actually in this time, I actually don't mind not leaving the house because I feel like I'm safe in my house. But then when I start, getting deliveries and packages and whatever and stuff brought in, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, my whole house is dirty. And then for the rest of the day, I'll just like feel like it's all like over me, like it's manifesting physically. So that part's kind of weird for sure. But I'm sure you have some good tips on how to deal with that type of anxiety.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like that is so real right now. And both you and I are actually germaphobes, which is really interesting. So first of all, I actually have a really good stock of cleaning supplies at all times. So when people ran out, I actually did have some left, which is why I'm able to afford sending some of my cleaning supplies to Maria. But also I have found that it has just been like a nonstop cleaning process. I feel like I'm constantly sanitizing everything. And like you said, bringing packages in, going shopping and wiping everything down just to be sure, because we don't know exactly how the virus works and how it's transmitted just yet. And I still have had to see my patients right now because there's a certain number of them that are just so emergent that I do have to see them in person. And I can't imagine, just how hard it's been for me. If anybody else feels that way out there, like just comment, yup, me too, because I literally spend probably a third of the time just wiping everything down. And so everything takes much longer. Yesterday, I went to go see some patients and my actual schedule was only for 6 hours, but I ended up being there for 9 hours because I had to clean everything up after everybody left. I cleaned before people got there. And there was a few other people at the office doing necessary services. And I got to tell you, the social distancing, I feel like is not being respected. I literally found myself like literally jerking away from people because they were getting so close to me. And again, as a germaphobe, the fact that my husband is a physician and he's on the front lines every day, I actually think that we are at higher risk maybe, and we have to protect ourselves more because we come into contact maybe with more people because of our work. But it was exhausting. I got home last night and I was just spent, just from all of that holding things together, like having to hold it together all the time. And I think depending on your personality too, the whole social distancing thing is going to work in different ways for you. I think if you're somebody who is very extroverted, it's going to be harder for you to deal with the social distancing. If you're more introverted and you derive energy anyway from just hanging out and relaxing and being on your own, and that helps you, you may have a lesser difficult time, I think. But everybody still has to find their own way and we have to get creative. And so Maria and I actually had an extended family reunion on Saturday. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that because I thought that was so lovely. No matter what your personality type is, I think we got a lot out of it.
Yeah. So obviously, we're using Zoom right now, and Zoom has just become this amazing tool during a time like this where it's a way for us to see each other, but also to get really big groups of people together. I mean, our extended family is so huge. Our dad has, there's 7 siblings in that family, plus, all of our cousins have kids, multiples of kids, basically. So we have a lot of people in that circle. And I think Judy, would you say maybe like 30 of us were on that call within like, 12 to 15 households or something like that.
Yeah, it was
So
amazing.
it was so nice. But like, I think what that brought to mind is like, why are we not doing that more often? We use this excuse of like, oh yeah, our family lives so far away. Most of our family lives on the East Coast. But during a time like this, it literally took just an email chain for us to get together and do this. And I feel like we have all the excuses in the world when we're not going through a crisis. So it's just a good reminder that we should be doing things like that more often.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's really all about making sure that, we just take these little steps to connect. And like you said, maybe right now we are a little bit more motivated. And there was a question here in the thread, and I'm losing who asked it, but it was a great question of like, what's the first step that we should take to supercharge our lives? And I really think that the first step is to know yourself. We have to do a little bit of self-assessment to know what your personality is like and what you need during this time, because this is unprecedented and all of us work very differently. For me, for example, in order to be productive, I have to still get up, shower every morning, have a routine. I think that that works for most people, but some people feel just fine working in their sweats and they swear by it. So even though I believe in research and in my personal opinion that that's a really good way to supercharge your productivity when you're working from home, for some people, they work very efficiently in their sweats, right? And so I think a really big part of this is self-assessment. And so I put on the page, and you guys can check it out later, a personality test. It's an awesome personality test where you get to find out what animal type you are. Maria, I don't even know if you took it. So you might have to take it and then come back and let everybody know what you are. But I'm a Panther Peacock, which means that my energy is very external. And so I still have to find ways to kind of run around and get energy out every day, even if I'm by myself. And one thing that Zoom has done for me is being able to see people's faces and really have that true connection as opposed to on the phone. And I've been trying to do more of that as everything has been going along. What are some podcasts that you like to listen to? There's a couple of people who have asked this question. One of my favorites is Freakonomics. I feel like I learn something new every time I listen to that podcast. Maria, do you listen to podcasts?
It's so weird because, I'm in LA a lot and there's so much traffic, and listening to podcasts is such a great way to make that drive every morning and your commute time. But I actually didn't start listening to podcasts until very recently. So I don't have like a ton of podcast suggestions other than Supercharged. But I have actually started listening to The Daily, which is the New York Times podcast, which every day they pick a subject matter that's relevant in the current landscape of politics or environmental issues or whatever it is. Even the Harvey Weinstein trial was covered. So they choose the topic, but it's kind of your way to get a little more in depth on current events. And that's something that I always struggle to keep up with, is I feel like we're inundated with so many news sources nowadays. So it's hard to kind of separate some of the good sources from the bad sources. I've always kind of respected a lot of the work that the New York Times does. So I just felt like this was a really great way to kind of catch up on current events, but also get a little bit more depth into one specific topic. So I've just really enjoyed that. It makes me feel like I'm in the loop more. But I was obviously one of those people that listened to Serial. That was an amazing podcast. So I do like real life murder mysteries and those things. And I heard that there's a ton of really good podcasts about, with featuring that type of stuff out there. So I'll probably check a couple of those out as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So actually you do have a long list of podcasts there. I love podcasts. I mean, as somebody who's always driving around, it's been something that's really been entertaining for me and helps me to stay engaged when I'm driving, and makes me not hate the commute as much, because if anybody knows me, my least favorite thing to do is to drive in traffic. Unfortunately, I live in Los Angeles and it's just part of what we have to do. And if it wasn't for podcasts, honestly, I think I would have so much more road rage. And so the fact that I have a better I can attest to podcasts. And that's really why I wanted to make a podcast. I wanted to make a podcast. I wanted to help people. And I can find that it's such a great educational forum where you can really get to know people one-on-one. Like what I love about podcasts is when you're listening to an interview podcast, you kind of feel like you're this little friend, like eavesdropping in the wall, and you get to really get personal with people. And it's a really intimate form of communication that I think we're lacking in some ways. And I think it really does help you to feel not so alone, actually. Sometimes when you're listening to a podcast, again, you feel kind of like you're in the room with them and that maybe they're your friends, and I think that that's one of the most appealing things about a podcast. So I want to do another game and I want to do another giveaway. So this one is going to be for a $15 Amazon e-gift card. So the last one was for 10, this is for 15. So we're stepping it up. And I don't know what this one should be, Maria. Why don't you ask a question? Maybe one about me that people can guess.
Okay. Do you want to help me with some subject matter, or should I just, I feel like, I know a lot of things about you, but I feel like.
I know.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like people might be able to guess. I don't know. You might have said this in interviews or whatnot. what was Judy's favorite arcade game growing up?
Oh, yes, that's a good one. So you guys have to remember, it's my favorite game growing up. So Call of Duty, Modern Warfare would not be my favorite game growing up, even though I like that game now because it's too new. So, when I was
Oh, are
younger.
you playing that these days? I didn't know that.
Yes, I am.
I need to learn how to play that then.
Oh my gosh.
We
Oh,
play
some of our
together,
cousins
right?
are on right now. Hi, Laura, Richard, Kylie. We were just talking about our epic reunion on Zoom on Saturday. You guys are making some really good guesses. We got Pac-Man, we've got Tetris. No, although I have both of those games.
Those are for sure like good guesses. And those are also games that we played growing up and was fun, but that's not it.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Oh,
We'll give them a hint. Like if nobody gets it in the next minute or two, we'll give them a hint. I'll give them a hint.
okay, that's good. Yeah, and while people are guessing, we can talk about other things. And so again, one of the big things about this podcast is that every single episode is going to have a tip, a scientific tip that you can use to improve your lives. And I'm so excited about this because I made all of these posts, which I'm pushing through right now into the page that you guys can check out later. But there's a personality assessment here. I would love to hear what you guys think about that later on when we're all done here, because I know that it's a little hard to kind of keep an eye on that and everything else that's going on. But I also love just talking about how to supercharge your productivity now that we're all working from home. And as I mentioned, some of my hacks are, I have to get up and have a routine. So I wake up at the same time every morning. I wake up, I try to go to sleep at the same time at night. I try to keep my work to only one area of my house. And I try to work in Pomodoros. If you guys don't know what Pomodoros are, these are amazing. So you can go to the Pomodoro website, but basically it's all about only working on one task for 25 minutes. Then you take a 5-minute break. Then you work on something else for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break. And every 3 or 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And it's amazing how much it streamlines the work that you do. Maria, have you ever tried Pomodoros? It's one of my favorite things ever.
No, I haven't heard that, but I do have one thing that I could share with people, which is just something that I read, which I'm sure you know about. But I am working from home as well because right now, since live tournaments have been canceled, I'm able to play poker online. But I obviously sometimes struggle with feeling like I'm in my workspace. And unlike you and most people didn't really have like an office space built out in their home, because obviously just being in an office space, having a desk, having a computer in front of you and everything set up like that makes you feel like you're more in the zone and ready to work. So this was a tip that I read for people who are now kind of finding themselves working from home that have never really done that and don't have a real workspace set up in their home. So they basically said, dress as if you're going to work, because that actually makes you feel more in this mindset of like, if you roll out of bed and you're wearing your sweatpants and you didn't brush your hair, sure, that's a really nice way to start your day without, having a care in the world. But then you can't really even mentally get into the headspace of, okay, now it's time to sit down and I have to work. But if you kind of get dressed like you're going to work, and it's a little uncomfortable, right? Like whatever you wear feels a little bit uncomfortable, but maybe it'll help you sit up straighter. Maybe it'll help you focus more because it feels more like you're actually at work, even though you're not. So
I totally agree with you. And that's one of my biggest tips. I'm posting this little graphic that I made about how to supercharge your productivity when working from home. And yes, it's all about showering and get dressed as if you were dressing for work. That's one of my tips too. And actually really does help. I mean, right now I'm wearing a superhero costume, which this is the most amazing thing. I didn't even buy it for this. I didn't buy it for this live stream. I had it. And later on, I'm going to post to Facebook and Instagram photos of me wearing this outfit over 12 years ago. And this is like the oldest Superwoman outfit ever. And it's actually really faded. The skirt's really faded. So like the skirt is so faded. It's just like, it's an old costume. But anyway, I just think that it's so fun, right? Like I feel more powerful wearing a superhero costume, even if it's a cheap one that I bought from some Halloween pop-up store so long ago. So really the way you dressing for success is super important. I haven't seen people make the right guesses. I see that Mario and Charles, you guys think that it's Super Mario, and I see people saying DDR, but the hint is that it's a fighting game.
Yeah.
It's a combat game. So do you guys have any other guesses now? I don't think that people usually expect this of me. So maybe
Right.
that's why people are having such a hard time with this.
Yeah. All of those guesses are great. And those are all games that I know Judy played and Judy liked, but it's not the game that was her ultimate favorite. I mean, I'm talking about, she would go show up with, quarters, but you know how like at the old school arcades, if you like were playing versus the computer, somebody who wants to go next would like put their quarter there, and that's like, okay, well, you got next. But basically people kept challenging her in this game and they kept losing, and then it would all just end up being like Judy would just end up playing against the computer and beating the game after, because like nobody could beat her. But
oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you guys are getting so close. I saw Mortal Kombat, then I saw Street Fighter. So yep, it's Street Fighter, guys. And in fact, it's Street Fighter 2, but Street Fighter is obviously fine. And yes, I was in contests. I made it to the semifinals. I was the only girl at the semifinals. This is all during my college years. It's amazing that I actually still got a college degree with how many video games I also managed to play in between all the studying and the working that I did. But we had this place called the Underground at UC Berkeley, and I would literally be in there in between all my classes playing video games. And it was super, super fun. I had such a great time. And yeah, I mean, again, I still have it, by the way. I bought one of those machines, which Maria has witnessed and played on. It's in my kitchen right now, but it's one of those machines that you could play at a bar, and you can sit in between, and there's 1,000 games on there. Pac-Man's on there, Donkey Kong, and for sure like 10 versions of Street Fighter. So, all right. So I know that there was a couple of people who guessed that. We will get back to you in terms of the gift certificates. Thank you guys for playing. And I know that was a little bit harder. I really do enjoy those games a lot more though than more of the realistic games that we have now on Xbox. Like I play Call of Duty, but I'm not good at it. I'm so terrible. If I ever had to play against anyone, it would be a complete embarrassment. I couldn't even pass a tutorial for like 2 days. So certainly yeah, it's really
well,
bad.
you know what it is, Judy, what I've realized, because I've been playing a lot on PlayStation with my boyfriend, is that now the controller, I just feel like I'm not good at moving around with that little like mini joystick. I'm so used to like the big old school joysticks in arcades to move around that I'm like, this is way too sensitive. Like I can't like stop. I like keep going in the wrong direction. But
I know, I just feel like it's too many fancy things, like, oh, do this to aim, but this one will give you a magnifier. I'm like, no, I just want to smash buttons. Like that's all
exactly.
I want. I'm very good at smashing buttons. Yeah, so, but thank you guys for playing. That was super fun. And I just put another post in there about supercharging your memory and supercharging memory through really good foods. And luckily chocolate is on the list. So no worries, it's not all boring foods, but some of the other foods that are really good for supercharging your memory: broccoli, salmon, blueberry, kale, avocado, eggs, and probably, as you have guessed, coffee. Maria, out of that list, what's your favorite and least favorite food? So broccoli, salmon, blueberry, kale, avocado, eggs, coffee, and chocolate.
Well, I obviously really love avocados. I don't really know a lot of people that don't like avocados. And you already know that I said that I like savory things over sweet things. So like, even though chocolate seems like an easy go-to, I still don't think I would pick chocolate. I think my two would be avocado and I guess coffee. I mean, I do like coffee, just not as much as I used to, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think coffee for me is necessary. We did this. We played the this or that during our episode. And I remember one of them was like coffee or wine, but I was like, just say coffee or alcohol. Like, what would you do if you had to pick between the two? And you and I had very different answers on that one. So
yeah.
All right. So we have a question. Do I find it hard to balance your media work with your clinical work? Yes, absolutely. I feel like I'm running around with my my head like a chicken with its head cut off a lot of the times. I am a self-professed workaholic. I do love every aspect of my job, but sometimes I just feel like there's not enough hours in the day. And very ironically, now that I can eliminate my commute, due to the social distancing, I actually feel much more organized on a daily basis because I don't have to be running around to all of these different places. And I do find that things are a bit more balanced at the moment, but I really always try every day to still have something fun that I'm looking forward to. I always really prioritize my self-care, which is something that I've worked on a lot more as I've gotten older. But when I was younger, I would go to sleep at 3 or 4 in the morning. I would wake up at like 8 or 9 and do it all over again. And yeah, I don't do that anymore. I like to go to sleep at a reasonable hour and wake up really early and kind of get a jump start on everything. Maria, I thought that maybe you can chat a little bit about your upcoming tournament. You know, speaking of balancing different things, I know you do the same thing. You're a media host. For people who don't know Maria or just joining us, Maria is my little sister. She's also the very first guest on my podcast. And I see that some of our friends have tuned in. So hi, Danny. Thank you for the kind words. Danny was actually our, well, he's a really dear friend of our families, and he officiated my wedding with my husband. So that was really cool. But, you know, Maria, you do a lot of balancing act too, because you are a host, you are a poker pro, you're one of the top 3 female poker players in the world. And you do a lot of your own social media posts. I mean, you do a ton of things, you do writing. So what's your tip to supercharge balancing all of those responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I've struggled with for a long time, and I don't feel like I've really perfected the balance part quite yet. But I think for me, in order to just balance kind of all of the different hats I wear in terms of various things I do career-wise, I think I just try to, you know, separate them a little bit in my mind. I think sometimes when you think about all of the things that you do or that you have to do, it kind of prevents you from doing the best job with what's in front of you. So, you know, I feel like if I know that I have an upcoming tournament versus, you know, doing broadcasting, then I think I'll take like a day or 2 beforehand to start kind of studying. You know, there's a lot of study tools actually for poker. You know, there's game theory, there's things that you can watch, videos that you can watch online, where there's really good players and you can see their whole cards. So I'll try to do that just to get myself in the mindset of what it is that I'm about to do. Because I feel like when you're jumping back and forth between a ton of different things, you kind of just lose sight of what you're supposed to be doing. So it's nice to take the couple days beforehand to prepare, even though you already feel like you are prepared. So that's something that I like to do. And in general, just the way that I balance things in my life is just, you know, by having that routine or having that consistency. So no matter what it is, no matter what my task is for the day, or no matter what hat I'm wearing, I always try to do the same 2 or 3 things leading up to it so that I can kind of feel like I'm ready to, you know, approach whatever it is that I'm doing with kind of the best focus possible.
Yeah, and I think that this brings up a really important part of what we're talking about is how do we find balance? Well, we find balance by attuning to our values. So I actually just posted a great resource. It's a values activity, and you guys can do that on your own time. But basically, values are different from goals because they're what we really cherish and what we aspire to, and who we want to be remembered as when we die, right? Because we're all only here for a very brief moment. And you know, how do you want people to remember you? How do you want people to talk about you? And you know, I've heard from many people saying things like, you know, when you're on your deathbed, the last thing you're going to talk about is your accolades and everything that you've done, achievements, degrees, awards. No, you're going to be talking about the most memorable experiences that you've had, the people that you love the most. And I think that's really what values are about, is like internally, what are you driven by? These are things that can't be checked off like a goal. So like a marathon is a goal, you can check that off, but like pursuing physical fitness and having fitness, that's a value, because you don't just get to a point where you say that's enough. Or, you know, another value would be honesty, right? Because you don't just decide to check that off one day and decide never to be honest again. And so I think it's really important to just make sure that you are attuned to your values, and that when you do make a goal or commit to something, that is based in your values. And so I think it's an important part of the puzzle of, like, if you feel overwhelmed, just stepping back and really understanding what your values are. So I posted that activity on the Bookstr page. It's also on the event page. So feel free to access it, download it, and let me know what you think. Go ahead and comment at me, and I will check those comments in the next few days. Maria, before I announce the 3rd out of 4 contest, we actually have 4 giveaways. So we're on our 3rd of 4 giveaways now, but I know that you have to go pretty soon because you have a tournament to prepare for. So can you tell people a little bit about how you're continuing to work right now with social distancing and what this tournament is that is coming up literally in 15 minutes?
Yeah, there's a couple of various online sites depending on where you live and your location that you can play. There's different laws in different, some states allow you to play on certain sites. And then of course, if you're out of the country, you can play on some other sites. So there's a couple of various sites that are running some series right now. So yeah, I'm just that's my way of trying to stay productive because obviously, again, I could be studying poker, I could be doing some other things, but this is still my primary source of income. So it's nice that I can work from home. I feel really lucky about having that option. So yeah.
Yes, and the Clorox wipes are on the way, so you can keep everything sanitized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always really enjoyed watching Maria play poker. I think it's really interesting to see how people respond to you. And we talk about this on this episode of the podcast of like, how do you supercharge empowerment and like feeling like you deserve a seat at the table? And I think that that's all really, really good advice for people who are listening in and trying to understand, when we have imposter syndrome, which we all do. How do you still deserve that seat at the table? And I remember one of my favorite stories about you was one of your first media appearances. Actually, you were on with Anderson Cooper, and you were being interviewed as, I believe, part of a series of women who were in male-dominated roles. Mm-hmm. And I remember you calling me right before the interview, and you were saying, I cannot believe the people who are here. Like, do I deserve to be here? Like, you had a moment of self-doubt, even though obviously you did. But do you still remember who some of those other guests are? I mean, I can tell how intimidating that could be to everybody.
Okay, I believe I was on with like Susie Orman, who she had her own show on, I don't know, maybe CNBC or something, where she was like a finance kind of guru maybe. And then one of the first female, like either like a former Speaker of the House, and then one of the first female doctors that was, I don't know, she was like, she was in one of the highest positions you could be nationally, on like some health and safety board. So it was like really crazy. And I was like, yeah. And as a poker player, yes, I qualify in the being in a male dominated world, but I didn't really feel like my resume or what I did really could stack up to any of these other women. So yeah, that was like a very scary thing for me. And I definitely questioned whether or not I belonged in that situation.
Yeah. And of course you did an amazing job. I can't even imagine how intimidating that would have felt. But you completely deserved your seat at the table. And it was actually so cool because everybody was on a panel, right? So there's 4 people total, and you were with Anderson Cooper, and he was asking each of you a question, but you could see everybody's faces and reactions to what anybody was saying. And whenever you were speaking about your experiences and your tips on how to deserve a seat, I could see everybody else like nodding along, like really supporting you. And that's one of the most beautiful things when I see amazing, wonderful women supporting one another. It really is such an important thing to have those girl bonds and to be able to support and be happy for other women when they're successful. And this idea about women always having to be competitive, I don't feel like that should be a reality, but it's almost like a cultural expectation or belief that people have now, and they don't truly believe that genuine female support is possible. And I would definitely challenge that.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to get like validation from women that, are so successful in their own right. But yes, I do feel like a little bit after the Me Too movement, I do feel like there's more of a culture of supporting women nowadays. And I think that's really important because I think, people say things like, oh, the future is female and all of these other things. And I think that, it really starts with us. Like, we want equality in all of these other ways, and we want it from our male counterparts, but are we giving each other the respect that other women deserve? So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's really about making sure that you understand as a person, somebody else's success doesn't mean that you can't have it too. One way to turn that narrative around is say, wow, if they can be successful, then it's possible, which means so can I, right? And you can actually become very inspired by other people and what they're doing. So I think that that's an important thing to keep in mind if you find yourself sometimes feeling a little jealous or feeling left out, because that's a normal human emotion. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's really about what you do with that emotion afterwards and how you turn it around. And I think that that's Really, really important. So a couple of people were asking Maria how they can find you, how they can link to your online poker tournament, if they can watch you. I don't know if it's possible, but if you would post it in the comments and people can see it, if there's a way for them to keep in touch with you. Of course, you can keep in touch with Maria on her social media. And she's very active on Instagram. Her handle is Maria_Ho. I can't believe you couldn't just get Maria Ho.
You guys, yes, there is somebody who has just Maria Ho, and I've never really tried to message her to get it back because she like doesn't even post. But I'm not about to get, you know, I'm sure the response is going to be like, yeah, I'll sell it to you for X amount of dollars, and I don't really want to get into some negotiation with this person, so I haven't really tried to get it without the underscore. But Maria_Ho on Instagram, Twitter, Maria Ho. And yeah, I have a website, mariaho.com, but you know, I post a lot of, you know, photos from my travels on Instagram. I post some poker tips. I do some stuff in my stories whenever I'm playing a live tournament. So if you check that out, you're going to get a lot of content from me.
Yeah, definitely check Maria out. She was actually definitely one of the first early adopters of social media. I feel like you so were up on the game before everybody else was. And I actually didn't really get into the game until I published my first book 6 months ago. I finally decided I was gonna put my energy into social media. I think part of what was holding me back was I felt like it was very self-indulgent if I'm posting about myself all the time. And the way that I got around that was understanding that if I'm providing value and tips, then it's a different story. And that's really what my podcast is about too, is giving people valuable tips. And so I see that there's some questions. I'm going to try to get to all of them here, but somebody asked how it felt authoring my first ever book. It felt amazing. Here's my book. I put it on my wall here, and I can't describe the feeling, the ownership, just the pride that I have being able to author a book that I feel like is going to help other people. And I've been very fortunate getting a lot of feedback from people that this book has been helpful for them. But yeah, it's scary. You know, I definitely suffered from imposter syndrome, thinking about, okay, if I'm writing this book, who's going to buy, who's going to care? And that happens with every big project that you do, but you don't want to have that fear drive you away. I've been talking to Maria forever about authoring her own book. And she keeps telling me she's going to do it. I feel like she could write a memoir. She could write poker tips for other female players. But Maria hasn't written a book yet. And I've been trying to push her into it.
Well, I feel like I got a lot of free time on my hands, so maybe this will be the little kick that I need.
I think so too. Okay, let's do one more game before you go, because I know you have to run because you have this other event coming up, because you actually have things to do. You have to play poker, so I want to play another game, and I think what we're gonna do is, I'm going to just ask you a series of questions, Maria, and then for the last one, I'm going to have people guess what they think your response is, and whoever gets it right first is going to get the next prize, which is a $20 Amazon e-gift card. So we're just moving up on the chain, $10, $15, now $20. So this is another game of Would You Rather. Okay, so ocean or mountains, Maria? What do you prefer?
Ocean.
Okay, me too. What about city or country?
I feel like when I was younger, I would have said city, but I kind of think I'm like slowly leaning towards country these days.
Really?
I know, it's weird.
I would not have expected that from you. That's very interesting. Well, this is going to be an interesting one. Stand-up comedy or sitcom, at least currently. How are you feeling about that?
You know, I don't watch that many sitcoms these days, so I think I have to go stand-up comedy. I feel like in the last couple of months, if you look at my Netflix histories, I've watched more stand-up comics than I have sitcoms. I don't even have like a go-to sitcom. After Friends, you know, that was my last one, I feel like.
Yeah, totally. No, I've been watching a lot of stand-up comedy lately. One of the people that I really like, she's a newer comic. Her name is Taylor, and she is hilarious. She has a Netflix special called Quarter Century Crisis. I almost didn't watch it because I was like, oh, quarter century. She's so young. What does she know about our experiences, especially compared to somebody who's older than her? But actually, she's so wise and hilarious, and like, she definitely has an old soul, and she makes so many great jokes, and it's just so good. And I love seeing new comics just do a great job. You know, I think it's such a hard art for it to come off seemingly naturally, but it's actually it's very rehearsed. You know, they've worked it so many times, and you hear these people and how much they prepare. And I really do respect stand-up comedians a lot. Okay, Maria, shower or bath?
I like showers. Like I like the idea of a bath, but I just feel like I'm always like in a hurry. So I have showers makes more sense.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now here's the last question. So for everybody who is still paying attention and wants to win a $20 gift certificate, Maria, I'm not even sure if I know this answer about you. So I'm going to ask you what your favorite cuisine is out of 2 types of cuisine. And don't say it yet, just, kind of keep the answer to yourself, and I'll look at what people are coming up with. This is an easy one, guys, because it's really just a yes or it's just one way or the other. It's this or that. So there's only 2 choices. And the minute, I don't know, Maria, can you see the comments? If you can see the comments, then you can help me out here, but I'll just wait until we get a couple of answers and then you can announce what the answer is. But what is your favorite food, Italian or Mexican, out of the 2? So people feel free to guess along. If you guess it right, then you'll win the $20 Amazon e-gift card. Italian or Mexican? I actually don't think I know this about you at all, which is kind of funny because I think you like both, but it's hard when you have to choose.
Yeah, I definitely like both. So this is going to be a tough one.
It's going to be a tough one. I know. I don't see anybody making any guesses just yet. Okay, Richard says Mexican, Pammy says Mexican, Charles Mexican, Kylie Mexican. It's everybody's guessing Mexican so far. Oh, one person guessed Italian. Okay, I love the fact that somebody entered in twice and guessed one of each. That doesn't count, Kylie. Hilarious. Okay, so we do have a couple now. So which is your favorite out of the 2?
I think I have to go with Mexican. I love Italian food, but honestly, I think I eat Mexican more than Italian. So
you, yeah. Okay, so the answer is Mexican. Whoever guessed it first, I'm going to get back to you with your $20 e-gift card. Super fun. Maria, you just let us know if it's time for you to sign off, because again, I don't want to hold you up from your tournament, and I certainly don't want you to not be able to defend your reigning championship title. So yeah, what do we have to look forward to though from you before you go? Tell us a little bit about your current projects, poker players that you hate. Like, I don't know. Tell us about your dirty poker secrets.
Well, I don't really have any dirty poker secrets, and I am gonna go after I pimp myself out. What a good time to leave. But basically, upcoming, honestly, it's crazy. Who knows what's gonna be on the horizon, because now it looks like the World Series of Poker might get postponed. So as far as live tournament fronts, I got nothing, but I'll be working on a couple of things from home. You might catch me on Twitch. Actually, I might be streaming some online poker on Twitch. You guys can check out my Instagram, Twitter for news of if I'll be on. I'll also probably be on Poker Go. We're going to be kind of running back some older episodes of some of your favorite poker TV shows on there. So if you don't have a Poker Go subscription, go to pokergo.com, sign up with the codename Maria, and you could get a discount off of a yearly subscription. But I'll be kind of commentating over some old episodes from your favorite poker TV shows. So yeah, that's what I will be up to. And maybe I'll be writing my own book. Who knows?
I really hope so. I told you need to get going on that. But yes, Maria, again, if you guys don't know her, pro championship poker player, also happens to be my little sister. She's so amazing. And she is my very first podcast guest. So thank you again, Maria, for being with us today. You guys need to go and subscribe, download, and check out the podcast. Send a rate and review too. That'll help me out a lot. But all of the information will be for you in the comments. If you don't see it on our social, Maria's Instagram is Maria_Ho. If you go to Maria Ho instead, it will just be somebody who never posts and doesn't have a social media presence, but is sitting on her name apparently. But yeah, Maria gives a lot of awesome tips. The title of the episode is called Winning Psychology with Maria Ho. So we get into a lot of childhood stories, and she also offers a lot of amazing tips for you to supercharge using psychology for your personality. So thanks again, Maria, for joining us. And good luck on your tournament today. I hope you win.
Thank you.
And let me know when you get the Clorox wipes.
I will. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, Maria. Okay, so as we're getting ready to wrap up, I just want to say a big thank you to Stage 29 Podcast and the doctors. You guys have given me such an amazing platform, an amazing opportunity here to have a podcast where we can help people and help people learn tips to supercharge their lives. I feel incredibly blessed and grateful for the opportunity, and I can't wait for everybody here to meet all of my guests. We have amazing guests lined up for you, people who are really awesome surprises. So I can't wait for you to check them out. I had a question earlier, whether or not people can submit questions for me to answer. We haven't done a call-in show yet, although that's a great idea. I'll definitely talk to my producers about it. But I think we have done write-in questions. So we did a little segment of one episode where we answer some questions that we get from listeners. And so, we'll kind of see how that goes. This is obviously a brand new show, so we would love your ideas. If you have other ideas of people you would like to hear from, specific areas of life that you would like to learn how to supercharge, all of that would be really helpful information for us, because then we can develop a podcast that hopefully you would be really into. And so we're definitely open to your ideas. Please put it in the comment box as much as possible. We love to hear it. We love to see what you're doing. And again, thank you so much. Shout out to the doctors, Stage 29 Podcast, Patty, Charles, Shannon, Mario, and everybody else who's been helping me to make this podcast a success. Kaylin, if you're also around, Kaylin handles our social media, and I'm going to be posting throughout today and the rest of the week, all kinds of different tips. I'm going to be pushing through a few more graphics that'll be really helpful, a few more supercharged tips about how to wind down, how to have social connection during our social distancing directives, and also how to have a wonderful sleep routine. And at the very end, I'm also going to attach a template for self-care based on your personality and your values. And so we had talked about this a little earlier. How do we really get in touch with our values so that we can really balance how we approach work life and things that you want to do, family life, just everything, being able to balance that very well. And then the other piece of this is, of course, just learning all of these different types of supercharged tips that you can apply right away, which is what this podcast is about. Before I go, I just wanted to announce one last thing. This is going to be the last contest and the last giveaway that we have, and it is a big one. Bookstr, who has been a wonderful media platform, and Scott, they have been part of my partnership as I've been working on my book promotion from many months ago, and we've continued to work together. And Bookstr is actually sponsoring a giveaway contest for a $300 Amazon gift card. And so we will post that in the comment box. It's a $300 gift card. We're not going to give away this prize right now. We're going to give it away over the course of the next couple of weeks. And it's really important that you go to the contest widget, and you can actually enter yourself for up to 10 entries if you wanted to by doing multiple actions. So the very first basic level is you got to subscribe and download and hopefully rate and review my podcast. We're going to need that from you. We need you to send in a photo for us. But also, if you decide to follow the doctors, follow Stage 29, follow Bookstr, tell a friend about the contest, tell a friend about the podcast, you're going to get more entries. And so that'll just amp up your opportunity to win. So again, it is a $300 Amazon e-gift card, you guys. Who doesn't want that right now? For most of us who are shopping from home, stock up on that Clorox and that toilet paper when it becomes available again, or get Amazon Prime now, you get your groceries delivered. So thank you so much again for tuning in today. I will be watching for all your comments in this page, and please follow me on Instagram. Here on Facebook, you can see where my name is, of course. On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Dr. Judy Ho, DrJudyHO. Also follow the doctors on Instagram and also on Facebook and on Twitter. That's the last one I didn't mention. And follow Stage 29 Podcast. We have so many other wonderful podcasts coming at your way. The host, the doctors, Travis Dork, has a podcast. We've got Coach Mike. We've got Vivica Fox. We've got Donna, who is a parenting coach. And we've got Gretchen and Slade. They're so wonderful and so energetic. And we also have Mitch Albom, who is a great author and has a lot to say about grief. So check it all out. We have lots of fun content coming to you guys. I really appreciate you all turning in today. And again, I will chat with you very soon. I'm going to try to do more Facebook Lives, more IG Lives, so I can get in touch with you more. Appreciate your support, and I'll see you all later. Bye. Have a supercharged day.